Did it ask you?
Yes.
So we are recording now?
Yes.
Great. So let's set up AWS from scratch. Very rarely you just Google for AWS and get started from there. Okay. Create an AWS account. Let me pause the... Can I pause the screen share while I type in my information?
I think you should be able to do that.
I can pause the screen share, not the recording.
I think you can. I've seen people doing it at my company.
Okay, so we have created this account. Let's read about the free tier. So because we need to create the appropriate type of database. 750 hours, single AZ, okay? 20 GB. Oh, micro. Okay, we have to use one of the micros. T2, T3, T4G dot micro. Just make a note. T2, T3, T4G dot micro. What's the VM they give us? Micro. Okay. Okay, cool. So
according to Wikipedia, the Chief Executive Officer, CEO, also known as the Central Executive Officer, CEO, Chief Administrative Officer, or Chief Executive, is one of the number of corporate executives charged with the management of an organization, especially an
yeah, let's go straight to RDS. So one shortcut is what? You should be able to type RDS and press enter without waiting for this, but it went to something else. So we'll use US West.
Okay.
US East 1, and which are the cheapest? AWS availability zones, regions. North Virginia. I mean, US East 1 is like their beta region. So, it keeps going down most often.
Oh.
Like for us, it's more than enough. It's huge. That single region has at least 11 data centers. North Virginia. So we'll choose one of these, Ohio or Oregon.
Why would different regions have different pricing?
So one of them is just the cost and the scale. So, if you are bringing something into South Africa, it costs a lot, right? It's a small thing. And they don't get the volume discounts they get in the US, right?
Okay.
There'll be import duties for them to import their servers.
Makes sense.
And also, for example, US, it'll be somewhere here. US West 1, there's one in Northern California. That's very costly because it's located in San Francisco or nearby where costs are higher. whereas some of these are located in the middle of nowhere. So anyway,
Got it.
let's not pick US East 1, let's pick US West
2.
WS regions.
I mean, I think you can just see it while you in the console itself.
Sorry?
I think you can see that in the console itself. Like if you go to the RDS console on
Right.
the top right side.
Got it. So this is the costly one, US West Northern California. US East Northern Virginia is one. Yeah, let's go with, where is Oregon? I don't even know where Oregon is in the map. Okay, there it is. Closer to California. Yeah, Oregon and Northern
Ohio.
Virginia. Okay, it shows here. Yeah, let's go with West.
Yeah, West.
In West, which were the ones? Oregon. Ohio is East. Ohio is this one.
Ah.
This must be Canada Central, whichever. Interestingly, Mumbai is not much costlier. You see here?
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, so see, Ohio is here, northeast.
Okay.
And Virginia is also somewhere around that. There. So we'll go with Oregon.
Yeah.
Oregon is US West. You can't zoom into this. Okay. Oregon. This one is the oldest and kind of keeps having issues. Yeah. This is costly, so we'll go with US West 2.
Okay.
Let's create a database. This thing, no, the region, you can't change it easily. So anyway, so let's go with standard create. We'll go with MySQL. And we'll go with the latest one. Oh, interestingly, this is not selected in the UI 29. Just wondering, is there a reason for that? No reason. We'll just go with the latest. Production used. Yes, free tier. Oh, they've introduced this new option here. 2 standby instances. Earlier they had only one, which is this: 1 primary, 1 slave. This is one primary, 2 slaves, and this is just one database. Test DB. Yeah, so you asked how is an availability zone different from a region, right?
Yes.
An availability zone, so every region has multiple data centers in the same city, like within 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers or so. And that entire thing is called a region. Whereas an availability zone is like one of the data centers within that city.
Got it.
So the idea is that you run your services in one region and have very high connectivity between the 2 data centers in that region and very low latency. maybe a millisecond, maybe lower, I don't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is you can easily fail over. So suppose,
Got it.
yeah, so suppose there's a database master and slave in two availability zones in the same region,
Uh-huh.
and there's a failure in one availability zone and it fails over to the other database, right? The second one
Uh-huh.
becomes the master.
Uh-huh.
Your app servers are still running in the first availability zone, but since they are very close by, it won't cost much delay. Otherwise, if
Got
the
it. Got it.
database is in one state and the app server is in another state, you are done for.
Makes sense.
So that is an availability zone. Now there
And
is,
you also mentioned master slave, right?
yeah,
Is it like having a read replica or something like that, or that is a different concept entirely?
yeah. So
What is
concept,
the
go on.
like latency or not latency? What's the difference between this master and slave at any given point?
Okay, so basically the slave replicates from the master. Whatever changes you make to the master get replicated to the slave.
Mm-hmm.
You can read from either of them. So they help you with scaling read traffic.
Uh-huh.
So as your website gets more and more popular, you may run into the limit of a single server
Mm-hmm.
for read traffic, right? So that is the thing. Writes have to go to the master.
Okay.
So one thing it helps you with is scaling of read traffic. The other thing it helps you with is reliability. If there's an outage in one, you don't have a downtime for your application.
Okay.
It also helps with not losing data just in like a 1 in a million case. If the database becomes corrupted or something, you still have a slave.
Got it.
So that is a
And
master slave. Yeah.
the like if I write to the master right now and suddenly read from the slave, like will the data be in sync like uh immediately, or will it take like a couple of seconds for the slave to kind of replicate or update?
No, so once your query returns success, it has already replicated. So you don't have
Got
to
it.
worry. Your app won't have any bugs. So let's say the
Got it.
user changes something. You edit your name in your profile page and then you refresh it immediately.
Mm-hmm.
You won't see the old name because it went to the other database.
Got it. Got it. Makes sense.
So that way it's easier. RDS master slave.
And
Read
that is
replicas are
different
something
from
different.
a read replica.
Yes, yes.
Got it. Got it.
You should read the user guide if you're working with RDS. So here,
Mm-hmm.
this is what I was talking about when I said master slave.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, read replicas are something completely different. We won't go into it because we don't want information overload right now.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, if you want to see the prices or the features, you can go to calculator.aws, click create
Okay.
estimate, type RDS for MySQL. We are in
Oregon.
Oregon, yes. The minimum storage that is possible in RDS is 20 GB.
Okay.
You can always increase it, but you can't decrease it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also set up storage autoscaling, which means whenever it's close to getting full, it increases by 10% automatically.
Okay. So you never run out of space.
Yes, yes. So you should set this to the minimum unless you know for sure you need more. because you can always increase, but you can't decrease.
Got it.
So here, micro, you can filter any way you want. These are the 3 micros we are eligible for.
Mhm.
T2, T3, T4G. This is the new Graviton or ARM CPU. The other thing is, there's this other third-party website called instances.vantage.sh, which is a very nice comparison of features. And so, you can say, I want 4 GB and show me the cheapest one that has 4 GB or something like that.
Oh, nice. Karthik, you should put these links in the description when you.
Yes, let's do that.
Yeah.
It will give you so much information, how much memory, storage, what's the network performance like.
Nice.
So let's remove the things we don't want. We are not using these databases. We are not using reserved instances. We are not using MariaDB. We want vCPUs. We don't care about network performance or architecture. So now, yeah, you can, if you want only micro, you can filter this way.
Nice.
And
Okay.
cost, you can, instead of hourly, you can say monthly. And you can sort by any parameter if you want to sort by cost or you want to sort by memory. Yeah, so this is one thing. You can also go to the EC2 tab here. This is also very good. See all kinds of things. You can say, give me things with CUDA compute capacity.
Nice.
So cost, will make it monthly. Columns, let's remove all the things we don't care about. Network performance, how many IP addresses it can have, what is the Windows cost, does it support GPU. So now you can say, you can give any number of requirements. You can say, want at least 8 GB and 4 cores. So we were looking at the micro instances, and I like to sort by price. So we are comparing this, this and this. They have this weird thing called CPU credits. Even though it says 2 vCPUs, you can't use 2 vCPUs continuously. You can use only for some amount.
Oh.
On CPU credits. So if you, let's start with T4G, the micro, it gives you 12 credits, which means you can use, yeah, so each credit lets you use 1 core for 1 minute. So because you have 12 credits, you can use 12 by 60, which is 20% of 1 core. So actually is 0.2 here.
Oh. Okay.
Temporarily you can go up till 2, but sustain 0.2 for this. Micro, this is again 0.2. This is even worse. 6.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't want T2, we want either T3 or T4G. The first or the third one. Yeah, who knows whether low to moderate is below 5 or 5 or above 5. Yeah. So anyway, so this is how you need to. Let's look at this one. So now when you search this, we are picking between the first and the third row. You can also click rows to mark them for comparison
Oh,
this way.
nice. That's very helpful.
Yeah, so this has slightly higher EBS bandwidth. So basically the EBS is a separate system, elastic block storage.
Mm-hmm.
So the RDS server does not use its local storage for the database. It's stored on an EBS volume, which is like a separate service, and it's mounted.
Okay. Okay.
So now, yeah, that is how you can scale it up and down without having to scale the instance type up and down.
Okay.
So the 20 GB is like a network volume. It's not a, right? That's how
Got it.
you can have 2000 GB on a micro instance, which otherwise you can't have, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So you can see that the max bandwidth is higher for T4G, this column. This is also
Mm-hmm.
higher. So we can go for T4G. So you can see they look similar, but they are different.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to use T4G. Oh no. So normally I would not recommend you use burstable classes because of this whole credits issue. And it also becomes hard to diagnose it later on. Because suppose your database is running slow. You log in and it says you are using 20% CPU. You may think
Mm-hmm.
that you are not using all the CPU. But actually 20% is what you are allowed to use. So actually you are using 100% of what you are allowed to use.
Uh,
So when you look at it, it will be problematic. Suppose you set an alarm. If it is greater than something, right?
mm-hmm.
Notify me.
Mm-hmm.
Suppose if it is running at greater than 70% utilization, the
Mm-hmm.
alarm won't fire because it will be running at 20% forever.
That's really weird.
Yeah. And also these burst credits, like you can burst for a while, and then once you exceed it, you are kind of throttled.
Okay.
So the problem is the performance will not be steady, it will be going up and down. So it will even be
Makes
hard
sense.
for you to debug. Suppose at 225 the performance became really bad. You'll start looking, did the traffic increase, did something happen at 225? But it may very well be that you ran out of credits at 225.
Got it.
It will be very hard. And don't use this include previous generation classes because they have worse performance for the same price or higher price.
Okay.
That's one thing. The other thing is, if you look at this, recommended RDS instance types. This is a spreadsheet of instance types that I recommend.
Mm-hmm.
And this is with multi-AZ. This
Okay.
micro instances are not covered by the SLA. For us, it's okay, but for the
Mm-hmm.
for a real production usage, you shouldn't use it.
Got it.
Because when they say it's not covered by the SLA, they mean to say that it may not run reliably, right? Whatever 99 point, whatever they promise.
Mm-hmm.
And also there's something called performance insights that tells you what is happening inside the database, which queries are slowing it down and so on. Those
Yes.
are again
Yes.
not covered in, not supported in some of the smaller instance types.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Okay.
There are all these like catches that you need to do. So the reason I made this spreadsheet is there are others that have 8 GB and 2 cores, but they cost more. So why would you go with that? So this is like the best bang for the buck.
Makes sense.
And notice, and when you exceed, you have to figure out which one is the bottleneck and scale. So suppose you are at 8.2. You shouldn't blindly go from one row to the next row, because if the CPU is the bottleneck, then you need to go here. And notice that here to here the memory is the same, but the CPU changes. So these are like two independent parameters.
Okay, got it.
And it
This
goes,
is
sorry?
only for MySQL, right?
No, any RDS.
Any idea?
Yeah,
The price, doesn't the price change for like some of them?
yeah, Postgres will be slightly costlier, maybe 10%. Commercial
Oh,
databases like Oracle will be costlier, even more. Yeah. So yeah, MySQL is the cheapest. I mean, the numbers will change, but the logic is still the same.
got it, got
The
it. Okay,
30
okay, that makes sense.
parameters.
Okay.
And also it
Got it.
scales to a very high extent, 768 GB. So, you know, people say we'll use a distributed database for scalability. They don't need it. Most people don't need it. So anyway, there are different SSD types. I mean, storage types. This last one is a spinning hard disk, the old type, which we should not use.
Hard disk, okay.
This is an SSD. This is provisioned IOPS. It can cost a lot. It can cost $1,000 a month. Some of it is set aside for us. So if you say, I'll just show you here, we won't go with it, but if you select this one, right? Let's just go
They
here.
are read and write operations, right?
Yeah, any read and write. Yes, IO
Okay.
operations per second.
Okay.
You can provision however you want. So here, if you go to, I'll just show you how costly it gets. T4G.micro. $256. Some reason it doesn't let me provision more than 80,000. I think you have to get permission from AWS or something. So if I select 80,000 and select 20 GB, it comes to $16,000 per month. And the database costs $23, the storage costs $16,000. So this is very costly. So never go with this. See, 20 GB is the minimum. This is the storage auto scaling. And it can auto scale minimum till, it can auto scale by 10%, which is fixed. So you can't say, you can't do 21 here. It will give an error. It has to be at least 10%.
Okay, okay.
So 22. So you should set some limit. You can say 30, because if there's some problem which is causing it to really auto scale, you don't want to go to like terabytes, right? Because you'll get a big bill.
Right, right.
Yeah, VPC is fine. You're familiar with the concept of a VPC, right?
On a very high level, Karthik, but it would be nice if you could just explain.
Right, it's a virtual private cloud. So basically it's like a separate network. Like let's say you have an office and you have a physical network, right? You have a switch or a router and you have a bunch of devices that are plugged into it. And some of the devices in that may not be available outside the network. So you have to be
Okay.
physically in the office to access the server, let's say, like in the older days before cloud and work from home and all these things. So
Is it the same as subnet?
yes, almost.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, so basically it's a level of security, right? There are some devices inside the VPC.
Okay. Got it.
So now inside the physical network, now the same concept has been brought to the cloud in the concept of a virtual private cloud rather than a physical one. So basically
Okay.
AWS will create a virtual network for us. And whatever databases, VMs we have will be inside that network. And we can control who can send traffic to that network. So if you have a database in the network and you say public access no, then only whatever is inside the network can send traffic to the database as an extra security instead of putting the database on the public internet.
Okay.
So for now we'll just go with this. There's a default one. Availability zone. So in US West there are these 4 zones. Each of them is a separate building, separate data center, separate electricity, separate generator, separate fiber connections to the internet.
Okay.
And they also kind of map the path of floods and ensure that they are in different regions so that if there's a flood in one, it doesn't affect the other.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And they connect to different transformers from the electricity system. So if one transformer goes, it will take down only one of the availability zones, not all.
Nice. Good.
Yeah, so we don't have a preference. We can go with A. Yeah, MySQL always listens on this 3306.
Okay.
So we'll go with that. And we can authenticate using a database password, which we set up above here.
Okay.
Or we can make it connect to IAM, which is Identity and Access Management. So basically, it's like you create accounts within AWS for different people in the team. They can also be service accounts, like backend team can be a service account. So anyway, the simplest is just a password. Initial database name. Oh, we do need one. Test database. These are how you configure the database.
Okay.
Oops. You can select different parameters. So basically, instead of applying many parameters one by one, right? Imagine running a command line app that takes 25 command line arguments. That would be annoying, right?
Yeah.
So you group them into a group and then you apply the group as a whole.
Okay.
And AWS gives you a default one. And you can change the one. So there's an option group, there's a parameter group. We don't need to mess with them. For example, how many connections does the database accept at once and so on. And
Got it.
this is an automated backup. And the interesting thing is, you can go to any point within the 7 days. So it's not like, suppose you plug in a pen drive into your laptop and you back up data every day, every morning at 9 a.m. Then you can go back to any day at 9 a.m., but you can't go to 5 p.m.
Right.
But here, within that window, any like minute you can go to.
Oh, nice.
And it can be
But
up to 30.
how are they doing it? How many snapshots do they need for that?
They keep the transaction log, so they can go forward and backward and apply diffs.
Okay.
That's how it
Nice.
works. So
Nice.
here you can set it up to 35. And oops, you get the same whatever storage you have chosen for the database,
Mm-hmm.
you get the same amount for database backup and snapshots
Okay.
for free.
Nice.
So
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to worry that enabling a backup will cost. So there's a backup and there's a snapshot. The difference is one of them is automatic, one of them is manual. So there'll be like a snapshot button in the UI. You can click that to make a snapshot anytime you want.
Okay. Okay.
That's a snapshot. Whereas the thing that happens automatically is this one. For now,
Got
we'll keep it at 1 day. I don't know if it will charge me more. You can select a time during which automated backups happen. So let's say at midnight, our traffic is low. So you can
Mm-hmm.
say at this time. It should, because it causes the performance of the database to very slightly degrade.
Okay.
The other thing is a database can use tags. So suppose you have different databases for different customers, you can tag it that way. And the tags are copied to the snapshot. So later on, you know which customer snapshot is which.
Okay.
Encryption is supported. It does not slow things down.
Mm-hmm.
And performance insights. Yeah, this is the thing that keeps data for the last 7 days, which is free.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can keep it up to 2 years also. We'll go with the free one. So whatever queries have run in the database over the past week, it will analyze and give you some suggestions on how to optimize.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
Enhanced monitoring, does it have?
So does monitoring mean CloudWatch or
No.
some?
Yeah, we'll look at CloudWatch also, but let's just look at this. Oh, CloudWatch logs. Hold on. Yeah, we'll choose the lowest granularity. And these logs from the database, if you want, you can ask for them to be published to CloudWatch. So the idea is if you have multiple systems, all of them will have logs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Databases will have logs, app servers will have logs. So the idea is that you want to centralize everything to CloudWatch,
Okay.
to one place basically.
Got it. Got it.
So if there is some issue, let's say there's an outage at 3 p.m. You can look at
Mm-hmm.
all the logs around that time to see, was there a problem in the app server? Was there a problem in the database? What happened actually?
Got it.
And there's a slow query log. You can define an interval. You can say every query that takes more than half a second to execute is considered slow. And then if
Uh-huh.
you click this box, all the slow SQL queries will get logged to that log. So you can go and find them and optimize them.
Okay. Got it.
So there are minor and major versions. The major version we have chosen is 8.
So before that, Karthik, even without the logs, performance insight will give us the slow queries, right?
Mm, let's look at it. There are 3 things. I keep forgetting which is which.
Okay.
But I don't think it will. No.
Okay.
Or it does, but enhanced monitoring doesn't.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so this is for the OS actually. We don't need enhanced monitoring. It's just confusing. Let's not go with it. Performance insights. Yeah, see, it is showing the slow queries here.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, let's see that later. Yeah, so any questions before I go to this auto miner version upgrade?
So we don't get to choose what OS it runs, do we?
No, it's Linux. It's a managed service, no?
Okay.
We get to choose only the database version, and we have chosen the latest, right? 8.0.29.
29, yeah.
Now, if 8.0.30 or 8.1 gets released, because this checkbox is enabled, it will get auto upgraded.
Mm-hmm.
It will never auto upgrade the major version like to 9.
9, yeah, got it.
I did that once on a production server and caused an outage, so don't do that. You should do it on a staging instance and or QA and test it, and only then do it in production. So that is why AWS doesn't do it.
Got it.
There's a maintenance window as well. You can select which day of the week. So suppose you're building some entertainment app. Friday to Sunday it may be most busy.
Uh-huh.
So maybe you want it to be done on Monday, right? Maybe a gaming app.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Whereas if it's a business app, Monday may be the busiest day. So you can choose the day and time. There's deletion protection. If you select that, the delete button in the UI gets disabled. So you can't delete the database. You have to come here and uncheck this box and then again go and delete it.
Okay.
So let's create the database.
So what does it mean by maintenance, Karthik, maintaining the DB? Like what kind of operations do we do?
So for example, databases require some kind of garbage collection. Postgres calls it vacuum. If you don't vacuum, the deleted data doesn't get data. It doesn't get deleted. It hangs around. So your database will keep expanding in size. So that is one example.
Okay.
So there are these two windows. There's the upgrade window. There's a maintenance window, right?
Uh-huh.
So yeah, maintenance is things that are with the same version, like this garbage collection type things.
So I'm surprised it doesn't do it automatically. Like, I mean, the database doesn't do it automatically.
I mean, it does, but you can control when it does it.
Okay. Got it. Like,
And maintenance also optimizes. First time you create a database, it is slow. Once, so you have to wait for one maintenance window. So we once created a database. It was slow. We didn't know why. And after a week, after the maintenance window was hit, it optimized it. So then it became whatever, 40% faster or something.
okay,
So
got it.
keep happening. So here, this is the main RDS page. You have the database. You have all of these. You can back up to S3 and you can restore from S3 also. And let's look at this database we have created.
Still creating.
Yeah. So each of the availability zones has its subnet. So there were 4, right? US West 2, A, B, C, D. There are 4 subnets, one for each of them.
Okay.
And this database is on all 4 of them. So it's available to any of the 4 availability zones. It's not a replicated database, so replication is blank. Yeah, it's not created yet. This is how you can create a snapshot. You can click take snapshot, select a database, and then it will take a snapshot, and you can give it a name here.
Got it.
And someone else can take a snapshot and share it with me,
Okay.
like in a team. And these are the system snapshots. So when you upgrade the database, it always takes a snapshot and then upgrades. So if things go wrong, or even if you manually upgrade the database. So like in this case, I was telling you where I caused this production incident. we took the snapshot that was created before the upgrade and we restored it to a new database. And we pointed the app server to the new database. That's how we recovered from the outage.
Got it.
So this is one. These are the automated backups. You can reserve an instance to save cost, which I won't recommend because you'll get logged into it. You can set
Sorry,
up.
Karthik, can you come again?
You can reserve an instance. You can make a commitment to AWS that you'll use it for what? Excuse me, 1 year or some duration.
Oh, okay,
And
okay,
you'll get
okay.
a discount. But then if your users increase and you upgrade, your reserved instance goes waste.
Makes sense.
It's like buying a Mac with 4 GB memory. Later on, if you need 16, that's the earlier one goes waste.
Yeah. Got it.
These are the subnet groups. These are the parameter groups we were talking about. And these are the subnets. I don't know why it's not loading. You can see each of them is in one availability zone. Each of the 4 subnets. So that way, even if 3 of the 4 availability zones have an outage, you can still reach the database using whichever subnet is in the 4th availability zone. So here, these are the parameter groups. See all the settings. Replication related stuff and so on. So if you want to change any of these, you can create your own, like you can copy the entire parameter group and change some of the parameters.
Got it.
This is the option group. The events are the things that are created by AWS.
Okay.
So maybe there's an instance creation, maybe there's a reboot, maybe something else happened. All that history will be here.
Okay.
And you can subscribe to some events. And you can ask it to send an email or something, right? So you can say I'm interested only in snapshot creation. So maybe you want a new email whenever a snapshot is created, then you can select snapshot.
Okay.
And gives you some recommendations here. Earlier I got a recommendation saying you should encrypt your database. It doesn't cost more, it doesn't slow it down. So why not do it? Was what it said. Our account is allowed to use 40 databases and you can raise a ticket with AWS to increase 40.
Okay.
Let it get started. Until then we can't do much. Okay, it's backing up. I think when it's backing up, you can still use it. CPU, you can see there's very little CPU usage. Sessions, which means nobody has connected to it to run any queries. Yeah, let's look at this. This is publicly accessible. These are the subnets. This is the endpoint. So in MySQL Workbench or any MySQL client, we can use this. We'll go to monitoring in a second. Logs and events. These are the ones I was talking about.
Event. Okay. Okay.
And these are the logs. So you can select it and view the log.
So, okay.
Go ahead.
No, I was wondering where this log will be stored.
Yeah.
In S3 or something.
I mean, wherever it is stored, you access it here. If you publish it to CloudWatch, then you can access it in CloudWatch across all services, RDS and EC2 and everything.
Got it. Got it.
So if things are going wrong, you can look at these log files. This is the configuration. All the parameters that we set up, right? This parameter group is still being applied. If it has any recommendations, it will show you.
Did we set up multi-AZ?
No,
Why? I thought we did.
no, we chose the third option. First option was 2
Oh, yeah,
slaves,
yeah.
then 1
Yeah,
slave,
yeah.
then no
Totally
slave.
watched it.
Yeah.
Got it.
It's creating the first snapshot. See, creating. And you can specify tags here. So suppose you have different customers. Let's say BMW is your customer. You can type it this way. And when you tag all your resources this way, be it databases or app servers or everything, when you get the cost, you can break it down by tag.
Okay.
So if you want to know how much is BMW costing us, be it database, app server, everything, right?
Makes sense. Yeah.
That is one thing. In fact, tagging is considered to be the first step in cost reduction. If someone says our cost is a lot. Okay, so here, this is the monitoring. This is the CPU utilization. This is what I was telling you, right? We are allowed to use 20%, right? We get 12 credits in 1 hour. So 0.2, right? Which is 20%. So this, if the line is like this here, then it means you have hit your CPU limit. And these are the number of connections, which is 0 now, and this is the limit, 76 or so. And this is the storage space. This typically you don't have to worry about much because it will auto scale. This is the memory. These are the number of operations being done on the database. So let's try connecting to it in MySQL Workbench. You have to, this is like a very clunky app.
Yes, I have seen.
Yeah, you have to click this plus to create a new connection. Test database. Host name is this. Test DB is what you give it, and then it creates some random characters here, probably to disambiguate us against other customers who may also have a database called test database.
Right.
And here I think the username is admin. Configuration. Yes, master username is admin. So you can configure SSL, you can say require and verify the certificate authority, whatever. Rest all we don't need to worry about. And you can say OK, and you click this to connect. I don't know if we have to change the parameters of the security group.
Security group, okay.
Let me go to the AWS console and check the security group. That is set up in the
Connectivity and security.
Yeah, this is the one. So basically, remember I was telling you a VPC is like a separate network. The network is not permitting traffic from my computer to it.
Right. Got it.
So the database doesn't even get the request. Says all traffic. I don't know what is custom.
You can just add another rule and add your IP, right?
Yeah, I can do that, but I'm just wondering what is this, because it's the same thing as G07AS. So I don't know, because you shouldn't need a rule for traffic from the network to go to the network, because it's already in the network, right? This is more like a firewall. So anyway, like you said, if you select the database here, it will auto populate. So my IP. So earlier it didn't have this my IP thing.
You mean like it doesn't auto-populate, or?
No, you had to Google search what is my IP and put it in.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I remember too.
Let's see if it works now. I am not on VPN or anything. That shouldn't cause a problem. Yes. If you get this ugly UI, then it means you're in. Describe tables, and you click this thing too. Okay, so you're supposed to double click the database to set it as a default, and now it's showing in bold, which means it's the default. Now you can run this query.
7
MySQL list tables. It will have some table. Show tables, not describe tables. Command enter or control enter also works. Okay.
Okay.
You can also use this UI to access views, stored procedures, functions. So anyway, we can run SQL queries now, which I won't show you, like creating a table with some schema and inserting and all that. So this is one thing. I can also show you CloudWatch and the cost calculator. I mean, the fact that you got this itself means that you are in.
Right.
And you can also use MySQL Workbench for long running queries like multiple hours. Just have to change some timeouts and so on. Okay, here, actually we were looking at, weren't we looking at performance insights? I don't think there'll be any insight for us yet, but
Yeah.
I think it should show the connection at least in the monitoring.
Yeah. I mean, there won't be anything in the insights probably.
Yeah.
But monitoring should show us 1 second at least.
I don't know why it's so slow. So you can also like perform various actions on it. You can select it, you can stop it, reboot it, delete it. Stop means, yeah, you are still charged, I think, for the storage, but the database itself is stopped. Delete means, yeah, everything gets deleted. Read replica, snapshot, you can restore it, etc. Now we wanted to see the monitoring here. Should show one connection at least. Oh yeah, here is where we can see it. You can see there's a slight uptick. You can click one of them to expand, and you can change the statistics. You can do average, minimum for any time range, and 1 hour is the smallest.
Okay.
This is the granularity of the graph. If you select 5 minutes, yeah, then it will get averaged out here.
Okay.
You can also show max. Yeah, so the max was 3. So this is one, and performance insights, you won't get any. So remember I was telling you some garbage collection, right? Yeah, this is the free storage space here. And I guess this will go down if garbage collection is pending and then go up once it's done. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
So when it was booting up, it did lot of IO, then it's slowed down. Yeah, this is number of rows per second that are being read from the database. And there is load, you can slice by many things. Yeah, you can find the top SQL query, top hosts, right? Who is making IP, who is making address calls to this, and which user account, right? It has multiple accounts. It's like an OS, right? It has multiple accounts that you can log into. And the admin one is like the admin account, but you can have other accounts.
Okay, got it. But typically, when you're using a web server to connect it, we just use the app, right? Or do we create a separate one?
Yeah, typically you just use admin. But for example, suppose you have different people in your team. Suppose you have a support team, people who may not be tech savvy. You should create a read-only account for them and give them only that password. So just by mistake. And even you should use the read-only account unless you actually need to modify the database. Just as a safety precaution.
Yeah, got it.
So anyway, we are not running any SQL, so there's nothing here. The other thing I wanted to show you is the cost. Is there anything else you wanted to see before that?
No, Karthik. Nothing.
This is the cost explorer. We won't have much to do, but you can slice and dice by different dimensions. So here, yeah, please check back in 24 hours. So basically you can say group the cost by the region or by the service or by the tag. So you can see different ways.
Okay.
So suppose you're getting a bill of $20,000. Then you can say, okay, 17 is from US West 1 and whatever, 1000 is from Mumbai.
Oh, okay, got it.
Or you can say 14,000 is from RDS, the remaining 6,000 is from EC2. So you can group in different ways. Or the tags, remember the thing we discussed? So you can group the cost by the customers to see which customer is incurring how much cost. So for example, with one of the startups I was working with, we found that we were charging a customer less than the cost they were incurring.
Okay.
So these kind of problems you can identify.
Makes sense.
So that's all I had for now, unless you have anything.
No, Karthik, this is very comprehensive. RDS is pretty clear.
Yeah. And now what you should do is you should always shut down VMs and services. Oh, CloudWatch. Did we see this?
I don't think so.
So when you are done, you should shut down things, right? Now with an EC2 VM, you can shut it down and it stays shut. With an RDS database, if you shut it down, after a week or so, it gets automatically rebooted.
Oh.
So you can't do anything about it. But I guess since it is in the free trial period, it shouldn't be a problem. Here in CloudWatch, yeah, this is the CPU utilization, read latency. Since there's nothing going on in the database, it's like 1 to 2 milliseconds.
Right.
An unloaded database has 1 millisecond latency. Here is where you can see the logs.
It would be nice if we could do some. Doing a query on CloudWatch is a little bit weird.
Sorry, what was that?
Like doing a query on CloudWatch is not very straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that.
Yeah, so here you can add some things and you can add like a simple query. You can say start with simple expression and you can say RDS dot per database metrics and you select test DB, right? And you select any of the parameters and you can say add to search. And then that will get added here. Right now I don't think there's any data, but and then you can search for something else. Let's say DB load. Yeah, you should add to. Yeah, if you select this checkbox, the graph appears.
Okay.
And you can define multiple expressions. So, you can do this. You can say add start with empty expression. And you can define like two things, right? So you can say so you can give this a name like a variable A, and you can add something else and give it a name B, and you can add a third one and give it a name C and define an expression C equal to A plus B by 2. So then it will calculate that and show you in the graph.
I'm not sure if I follow that logic.
So let's say you can do some maths on the matrix is what I'm trying to say.
On the metrics. Okay.
And to do that, you add some things which are like the inputs to the expression, and then you give an expression. And in the expression, you refer to the inputs by name. So this is one. Yeah, so this is the math expression thing, right? Here, this is the ID. Where's the expression? This is the one. No, not the label. I'm forgetting where it is. So this is like a raw parameter and you can select the period. And here, ID, details. Yes, here you can give an expression. Like what is this called? This is called M1, right? You can say equal to M1 into 10, for example. So now you have something called E2 here, expression 2, which if M1 itself doesn't have data, but if it had, it would multiply that by 10 and show a second graph.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah, so anyway, you can have, this is a period for which to show the graph. This is each data point should be the average of 5 minutes or 1 minute.
Okay.
So right now we are saying for the past hour, if I select 1 minute, it means there are 16 data points. But if I do 5, it means there'll be 12 data points now.
Right.
And you can select average, or so suppose you're trying to debug something with memory, you should probably select the max, because if you hit the maximum limit of memory even for a fraction of a second, you are in trouble, right?
Right. Yeah, makes sense.
You can change the statistic for all of them at once, or for each one you can have a different statistic. One can be min, one can be max, each row here.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, you can also, if you can't see, you can also change the scale. So suppose one value is 1000, one value is 1. The 1 will not be visible, right?
Right.
So you can say min is 0.1, max is 2. Then that will be the scale.
Oh, okay. Got it.
That is one. And here when you search for something else, so this tab graph matrix is the things that we have added to the graph. So let's delete this since we are not using it. Now you have to, now when you search for something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's look for, this is the CPU credits I was telling you about.
Oh yeah. Got it.
So let's add this. If you say add to search, it gets
Mm-hmm.
added to the graph.
Okay.
But if you say search for this only, sorry, if you
Uh-huh.
select add to graph, it gets added. If you select graph this metric only, all the existing things will be removed and the selected one will be added here.
Oh, okay, okay.
So yeah, bunch of stuff. So is there anything else, or shall we delete this database for now and leave it at that?
We can delete it as it. Nothing that I can think of.
So now because we have deletion protection, we can't delete it. First, we need to disable the deletion protection.
Okay.
This UI has always been slow to load.
So Karthik, if we are upgrading an instance, let's say from T4 to maybe T5 large or something, will there be downtime?
Maybe 30 seconds, 1 minute, something like that.
Okay.
So here in actions, if you select delete, you will get an error. Has deletion protection enabled. So you go here and you disable deletion protection. When you change any of these, it will show you a diff in the next screen. So you know what values you are changing.
Okay, okay.
And you can say apply in the next maintenance window or apply immediately.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
suppose you have an outage and the setting you are changing is intended to help you recover from the outage, then you need to apply it immediately.
Got it.
Whereas if
Yeah,
it's
makes
a
sense.
backup related thing, you may, I mean, typically I just say apply immediately.
Uh-huh.
Why is it still showing that? Oh, I think it's still being applied. It said successfully modified. Yeah. If you want, you can create a final snapshot before deleting it.
Mm-hmm.
And the automated backups. Remember I was telling you the snapshots?
Yeah. Yeah.
You can retain them or you can delete them. Let's clean up the snapshots as well here. Okay, it's deleting. There are no snapshots. Oh, these are manual, these are system initiated ones. Let's delete that also. Okay, I think the checkbox we checked when deleting will cause this to be deleted.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and this also, this we can't do anything. Yeah, so this is the thing, right? Restore to point. There's a minimum. So 10:30 to 10:55. Any point, like you can say 10:43, I want to restore to, it will restore.
Nice.
Do you have any other questions before we conclude?
No, Karthik.
Okay, let me stop recording.